a
Good
great
morning.
honor to have you in my podcast. As you know, my podcast is called as "Don't Touch My Politics." We're going to discuss many things today about the artificial intelligence along with international law.
Yeah, hello. Nice to meet you. I'm happy to be in your podcast, and I'm curious for the questions.
All right, so let's start off with how artificial intelligence relate to government. Today, many government have installed many technological modern systems in their bureaucracy. People now don't need to pay parking tickets in Indonesia, for example. So now we use mobile apps, and we also use mobile apps to enter the trains, to board the plane, and many more, especially in such pandemic with less contacts. So, do you think it is possible and it is highly advisable for artificial intelligence to replace government officials?
Well, this is a question you cannot answer generally. You must differentiate. As long as the application is not touching too much the human rights and the personality of the people,
Yeah.
it seems okay for me for tukang parkir. I have no problem with that. But as long as the acting of the authority or and then of the artificial intelligence is deciding about the fate of people and about their life and their right to live and their human dignity issues, then I think we should not give the power to the artificial intelligence. For example, if we see judges, could we replace judges by artificial intelligence? I read that China is using now systems to prepare accusations,
Mhm.
criminal accusations for certain delicts which are maybe easier to handle. This is, in my opinion, not acceptable in the light of the Constitution and in the light of the human dignity, because the human being has the right to be judged by someone who is not perfect. This sounds maybe strange because many people think artificial intelligence that will be perfect. This is not. There is no bribery. There is no moods, and so the artificial intelligence will, of course, be more just. But this is not the case. The case is exactly the danger of being in front of a court or in front of a judge who did not sleep good and maybe makes a mistake in favor of us or against us. This is the right of the human being. So with other words, in my opinion, this cannot be. And also expert systems of artificial intelligence could make a bias to the judge. So depending, yeah. So if many aspects of the authorities and of the government should not be replaced, maybe support but not replaced. But of course, the issue of the pandemic is something else. There is also the data protection, and the artificial intelligence is collecting the data, is processing the data, and this processing of big data is again another problem.
Yeah. So people nowadays looking at this artificial intelligence, they're divided by two sides. Some people still live with the traditional way and say this is too much on interfering with our privacy, and others are very modernized in their mindset and they see this as a huge evolution, a huge step for mankind in the future. So, how do we balance our thoughts and our sides on this issue of globalization and artificial intelligence so that we can still uphold the law in our country, but also have the freedom to enjoy such technology given to us?
If you refer to the personal to the individual, what can the individual do and what can we do as a citizen? I'm of the opinion that not only with the artificial intelligence, with many issues of the modern technology and the development of the technology, especially the blockchain technology and the smart contracting, this is taking away trust and replacing the trust with technology. So if we see the artificial intelligence, why we would use artificial intelligence in the authorities? Because we don't trust the authorities or the human being, which is in the authority. We think it's more perfect then, yeah. So and why we use a smart contract with this executing automatically, because we don't trust that our contractual partner will give us what he owes us, and that is over the border. We cannot enforce our right of the by the contract to someone in another country maybe. So we use technology, blockchain technology, smart contracts, RE, for replacing our mistrust. So why I say that is, if we use technology which replaces trust, institutional trust to the institutions and to the law system, and individual trust to our contractual partners, for example, then who is trustable? And now look at the platforms like Google, like Meta, like Amazon, all these platforms which use already AI and which collect a lot of data and do it globally without being controlled by the states or being controllable by the states. Now, actually, much of this responsibility, now we come to the responsibility, which makes the trust. Yeah, if I know my partner is responsible, I can trust. So if I know my government is responsible, I trust my government. If I know my government has no power to regulate, I maybe not trust anymore. So who is now in power? It's the big platforms. So if we trust the platforms, fine. But can we trust the platforms? This depends on the responsibility. And the platforms say, we are responsible for our platform, but we don't want to interfere too much, because in the end are the individuals in the platform. So that leads us to the responsibility. What can we do? Individuals can handle their privacy and must handle their privacy, because where is no protection by the government and the state, and where is no protection by the platforms, because the platforms want to make the business, and the platforms has maybe different values because they are in the United States and we are in Indonesia and Germany, then the responsibility goes to the individual. And now I come to Indonesia. Yeah, look to the Indonesian situation in Facebook. I was used to be in the Facebook, and I had a lot of Indonesian followers and friends there. And every morning I had to scroll through a lot of uninteresting things about even grandmas in the coffin short before burial, their children playing half naked in the internet, and so on and so on. These people don't want to do anything bad, but they are not conscious about their responsibility. So what can we do? The first step is for every one of us not to give to the platform all our privacy, because we are not sufficiently protected. So stop to do this. Yeah, take care what you give and be responsible with your data, because your data is your property and you should not give it. So this is one thing. This one can we do. If you ask me about the state, this is another question maybe later. Yeah. The state has only a limited power anymore in the globalization. And I call it the technical globalization, because it's not a globalization by the WTO. It's a globalization by the technology. The technology puts us in front of the factuality. It is there. The Chinese will make it. What is possible, they will make. The Israelis, what is possible, they will make. Made genetical technology, made IT. And whether we want it in Indonesia or in Germany or not, we have no choice. It's the globalization. Or we are an island and switch it off, or we do it.
I agree. And even the government, which data is protected, it still can be penetrated by foreign intervention, foreign hackers. And what will we be experiencing is will be something more disastrous, because we ourselves, we're not responsible. We don't know how to protect ourselves. We don't have the technology to protect our data like what the government already has. And even the government with such protection still got penetrated. I agree. All right. Thank you very much, Professor, for that amazing explanation. Maybe you have a couple of questions for me as well?
Well, I have a question to you, how you see that. I mean, how you handle the internet. Do you have a Facebook? And did you ever think about these issues, or do you use it as in the beginning you mentioned technology is very useful and actually nice to have, yeah? So how do you see that, and what is your opinion about the political maturity of the young people in your generation, which is also connected, of course, to the internet, influencing hate speech and fake news and these things? Are the people ready to understand what happens here, or are the people going into the trap? What is your opinion, especially the young people in your generation? Because I have to do with students 20, 25 years, but I'm interested especially in your generation. You're now a new generation.
Well, I think technology is inevitable. It's inevitable, and our task is simply to be responsible, as what you have stated before. And looking at Indonesia's current situation of the maturity of the news spread around the internet, especially during election back in 2019 when there was a presidential election, the maturity of the people, if we comment on their maturity and said that they're not responsible users of the internet, they're not responsible user because they do not respect, they spread this violation of freedom of speech, they spread this hatred and all. They simply will say to us that you're violating our freedom of speech, while they are also violating other people's freedom of speech by not accepting facts, by not listening to other people's opinion. So I think the maturity rate of Indonesian generation, young or old, is not that mature. But the younger generation, hopefully, thankfully, they're slowly to becoming more aware. And here comes the part of education. Take it as it is, but students who in Indonesia who came to international schools, they're well more mature in the internet compared to students who are in the national school. And we cannot blame their parents for becoming poor because they cannot afford that. Well, the government has a problem in here because they're not providing this this very much fundamental education of being responsible, as you have stated before. They're not teaching us how to be responsible users of the internet. They're rather just telling us that we're here, we'll protect your data. If you don't, if you spread the wrong things, then you might be in jail. If you access, let's say, extremism, drugs, illegal stuff, we will put you in prison. But what these people did, accessing those contents, they're attracted, they're invigorated by the content in the internet because they're not responsible, they're not mature, as you said before. So I do think that the maturity rate is really low, but I'm hopeful for my generation by discussing this with several of my friends, several of my family. I can see that the millennials and the Z generation, they're slowly becoming more aware through listening to conferences, listening to their teachers. And I hope that every school in Indonesia will be innovated in a responsible manner because we cannot be left behind in technology, but we also should not be left behind by ethics. Everyone should have ethics and should have
Yeah,
the
I
law.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree that education is the most important thing for developing. I'm always of the opinion that before investing in other things, every country should invest in the education. So this is why I'm really like to teach everywhere and to have these
Yeah.
discussions with students. And indeed, that seems to me crucial because and about the ethics, be well aware that the more technology takes over, we have already a shift to the global companies like the Google. I mean, the Google is the one who decides what happens. Yeah, so you cannot, as I said, you cannot regulate all. And what does it mean for the ethics and for the integration of the justice and the ethics in the law? Lessig mentioned the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast code. Code is the law. The East Coast code is the traditional code in Washington, D.C. in the legislature, and the West Coast code is Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley has already much of the code taken over. But what if the AI is in Silicon Valley deciding who is in integrating the ethics then?
Yeah.
So see how important is the ethics, and I like that in the law study in Indonesia, the law ethics and the law philosophy is very strong indeed. But be well aware that the ethics must be cured and must be developed, and young people in your generation should already learn that. So education, ethic education, and I don't talk about moral, I talk about ethic, because the moral is something which is depending on the religion, on the cultural group. This is something different. You would talk about ethic, which is from all of us. Yeah. So you and me, I think we have the same ethic. Maybe we are not the same religion, but we have the same ethic.
Yeah.
We know what's good and wrong, mostly. Yeah. So I really agree with that.